Hi, my Astro family. Today I wanted to just make a second video on this solar eclipse because I kind of spotted a couple of other things and I forgot to mention a couple of important things in the previous video I made a couple of months ago. So I decided to give a go to a second video. One of the reasons why I tried making this video for you is to give you practical tips about how to go about your own chart to see whether this eclipse is going to be important. Obviously, probably all of you are aware when a solar eclipse is actually hitting your personal planet in your chart, then it becomes extremely important. But what if this does not hit my personal planet whatsoever? Is it important or is it not? Yes, the answer is it is important in certain cases. And this is what I would like to actually shed light on for you. The other reason is because I did not spot that the fifth largest asteroid is right next to this lunation as well. It's called Astraea. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Astraea so that you can have a little bit more clue how to go about this lunation. Now, I am going to be holding next month a 10-week course on all the 30 most important asteroids I work with. So if you would like to gain an in-depth knowledge about them, check it out. It's very affordable, in my opinion. 10-week, 30 asteroids. Believe me, it's going to give you a additional layer to your chart interpretations. This course is designed for those who already have got some astrological background, such as signs, planets, and houses at least. So, what is the practical tip I wanted to give you about this lunation? One of them is that firstly, I would like you to check what uh, solar, what eclipse cycle you were born into. This is going to be very important. Now, you do need to have a program for that. I do not believe that online free horoscopes do that, but if they do, then please just put it into the comment box below because it's going to help others to kind of figure out. But each eclipse is born into a family. Now we call it as a Saros cycle. One eclipse family is running for about 1,300 years. And within that 1,300 years, we tend to be having 71 to 73 eclipses in one family. Now, this is something ancient astrologers already noticed, that eclipses are falling into the same kind of like individual groups. That's what we call as Saros cycles, or some astrologers call it as Saros series as well. So as I said, there are 71 to 73 eclipses in each Saros family, and they are about 1,280, 1,300 years. Now, currently, we have got 42 different Saros cycle running. So what the ancient astrologers did actually back in the days were that they were actually writing up, all the Saros families, and then there were a list of 200 at least. But then Bernadette Brady came around, thanks for her, and then she sorted this out, and she was like, what's the point in following some of the Saros family if they are not relevant anymore? So we started minimizing them. She started minimizing them. So currently we have got 42 different Saros cycle running, if I'm not mistaken. Now, half of these are always starting at the South Pole, and the other half is always starting from the North Pole. So therefore, when you have got, let's say, a solar fire program, then it's going to tell you that, for example, um, you were born at a certain period of time. That's going to be an S south eclipse, or it's going to be a N north eclipse season you were born into. So what you should be doing is check out your date of birth. If you were born on an eclipse, then you were born into an eclipse season. So check it out, what cycle it was that. If you were not born close to an eclipse, then check the previous one, because that's what you were born into. So that's one thing you might want to be doing here. Now, each of these series, eclipse series, we number them from 1 to 19. So this one, this solar eclipse is actually falling into a North 7 cycle. And each of these eclipses have got a starting date. So therefore, they carry a karmic stamp on them. They have got a certain type of feeling about them. So the last time, and another interpretation tip I would like to give you. You might want to be looking at, so you looked at whether you have got the same Saros cycle you are falling into. So again, it's North 7. Then it's going to be extremely important eclipse for you, even though you do not have a personal planet there. So that's one thing I would like you to pay attention to. The other one is, I would like you to go back to 2005, around April 8th. That's when we had the last North 7th Saros cycle. And then we had October 3rd, 2005, we had the 7th South Saros cycle. So 2005, early 2006 could have been a very important event because these Saros cycles do repeat every 19 years. Okay, so therefore, history repeats itself. Similar things could be happening. Not always the same because the eclipse chart is going to be different. But remember that the initial cycle is always going to be carrying a theme with it. Now, this solar eclipse cycle started in 1103, October 3rd, 3:08 a.m. GMT time. Now, what you're going to see in this chart, because that's going to be the theme, what it carries, is that you will be seeing a sun and moon opposition to Pluto. Now, it's interesting that this time around, Pluto is actually squaring this lunation, right? So somehow it is bringing in the themes of that. Also, what you can see here is that the sun and moon conjunction is actually falling with the Mars and Venus midpoint. Now, Bernadette Brady says that this is a very sensual solar eclipse. It brings in, because we have got Pluto, Mars, and Venus involved here, so it carries loads of sexuality around it. And it is happening in the sign of Aries as well, right? So therefore, it is about sexuality, but also it is about individuality as well. What the sun and moon opposition to Pluto pretty much talks to me about is to learn to embrace the individuality and letting go of some of the fears around partnership, the fears around being controlled, the fear of death, right? The fear of compromising and learning to be yourself. So it is inviting you to be you. Now, there is, of course, the Mars and the Venus midpoint getting involved there too, which would pretty much talk to you about embracing the feminine and the masculine part of yourself as well at the same time. Now, this cycle, actually, the sun and the moon conjunction, therefore the eclipse, took place on 15 degree of Libra, as you can see on the chart as well. So it was asking us to focus on the relationship department, but this time around, this eclipse is asking us to focus on our individuality and to be able to be us in the relationship department. So also the other interesting factor is that we did have two lunations in the sign of Aries. So in March, we had a new moon at 0 degree. This is the reason why, by the way, it's called a blue moon. because it happens pretty rarely. We have got 13 lunation a year, and then one of them usually is around 0 degree. The other one is usually around the last degree of the sign. So we are receiving two opportunities here to deal with our individuality. But of course, it is happening on 29 degree, which is a kind of like something which is coming to an end, giving us the opportunity to start fresh. But in order for us to do that, often we need to get out of our comfort zone. So does it feel a little bit, does it feel a little bit frustrating or even unnatural to kind of leave some of the relationship traumas behind? How is the intimacy department working in the relationship? These could be some additional questions here. Now, the other interesting thing, which we might want to mention, this is not going to be a long video. The other interesting thing I wanted to mention to you in regards to this eclipse is that it is very tightly conjuncting Astraea. Now, Astraea, very briefly, is the asteroid of karmic patterns. Basically, what happens here is that we are meant to be breaking some karmic patterns. Something is coming to an end. Now, a little bit of a background about Astraea. Now, some people tend to believe that Astraea is the ruler of Libra. This is more of a modern approach, by the way. Now, the story behind Astraea is that basically she was so basically Astraea met the god of the sea, and he told her how foolish she was to trust humans. And she felt extremely embarrassed. And actually, she wanted him to apologize, but he was like, I am not going to do that. So then Astraea decided to go to Zeus to make him decide about who is wrong or right. But of course, as usual, Zeus was not able to make up his own mind. So he said that they should do a little bit of a competition. So they held this competition on the square of the heaven. And then the god of the sea started first, and he waved his wands, and this beautiful water flowed out of the crack. And then Astraea, by the way, her second name is Lady Justice. She transformed into a tree, and basically she had green leaves and golden olives on her, and everyone started feeling love and peace. Now, the god of the sea admitted defeat eventually. So that's something interesting. Now, what happened was that she got pretty much tired of the fact that people, because what she did was that she gave everything to people. We are in the golden age. She gave everything to people what they needed, but people became greedy. People started killing each other. People started killing animals, and they went brutal, and then they started stealing from each other and so forth. So Astraea decided to leave Earth. She was the very last one to leave Earth. And then she was put into the constellation of Libra. So what we learn about Astraea here is that she is something to do with a break of karmic patterns, but also she does represent injustice as well, or justice. Because she was fighting for her pretty much right, if you like it, right? She wanted to prove the point that there is a point, or there is a hope to trust in human beings, that we all can change, right? They all can. And then she even said apparently that she is gonna come back when people return to her old self. Now, she is the fifth largest asteroid. If you want to be checking out where Astraea is in your natal chart, you just need to go on astro.com and then you type in the additional boxes number 5. And then you will be able to see where your Astraea is. The house placement of your Astraea is going to talk to you about the area of life where you need to break karmic patterns. So, for example, this is in my 7th house. So I'm meant to be breaking some karmic patterns in the relationship department. Also, she represents purity, morality, and justice as well. By the way, her name also is Star Maiden, so you might come up with that name. She was the daughter of Zeus and Themis. So basically, she had Pallas Athene as her sister. And remember, the Pallas Athene was about creative intelligence, wisdom, and justice as well at the same time. So now, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for us now, right? Oh, by the way, Australia was discovered sometimes in 1845. So it's been around for a while. It's almost 200 years old, asteroid. So we have got enough knowledge about her. So it's worth exploring in your own chart. And probably she spent about 3-4 months in one sign as well. When you are looking at the discovery chart, you will see that Uranus, Sun, Moon, Pluto are all in fire signs. So Astraea does come with passion. Fire is about purification, spirituality, but yes, it can be very impulsive as well, right? And then the fire represents also wars as well. And the chart has hardly any water, which is showing how difficult it is to talk about our emotions. The only planet which we have got in water sign actually in the discovery chart is Mars, which is in the sign of Pisces. So that's Australia. So I think on a world scale, what it's gonna talk to you about is that some of the injustice will be exposed or someone's justice is coming. So meaning that maybe I can imagine there is going to be a court case and the person is gonna be found guilty. Most likely, this is going to be a major court case. I think we all have got an idea what who we are talking about. So I think it's going to be, for example, Donald Trump. But definitely, it's about something which is coming to an end. Australia, when also interesting. I would like to mention this one as well because Australia, because it's gonna be in conjunction to the sun and the moon, the two regal energies. King George III of Great Britain had Australia conjunct sun. It was in the sign of Gemini, by the way, but that's pretty interesting that we are going to be having the coronation coming up pretty soon too, which probably I want to be doing a little bit of a reading about that. Okay, guys, this is just a short video. So what I wanted to talk to you about is check out what Saros family you were born into. If you were born into this North 7th or even South 7th, then in that case, this is going to be a very important uh, um, solar eclipse for you. And if you have got some personal planets around it in your natal chart, then obviously it's very important to you. But the other thing you might want to be checking if you have got progress planet there, or a solar arc planet. So to give you an example, this solar eclipse is taking place on my progressed Venus. So you might want to be looking at what does Venus rule in the chart and where does Venus come from in the natal chart. So Venus is in my first house, so it does carry some first house energies with it. And at the same time, Venus rules my third house and the eighth house. So it's going to bring in some of those topics as well. And something is coming to an end. Unfortunately, it has already happened. This morning, my auntie passed away, and aunties are represented by the third house. And Venus also rules my eighth house as well, which is death. So on one hand, it already, turned out how it's gonna act. But at the same time, because Venus is the co-ruler of my rising sign is Pisces, it does represent something about my body as well. So something to do with my body changes. Hopefully, I am breaking a karmic pattern here. So guys, this is what I would have liked to share for you. I hope it is helping you to figure out your eclipse chart a little bit easier. Have a blessed eclipse season, and do not forget to check out my previous video on the solar eclipse where I broke it down to you in so much depth. See you soon. Bye-bye.